Today is February 3rd, 2025, and in episode 130, I'll provide a week one recap for those of you who are taking Thesis seminar. Hello and welcome to ELT Cast, an educational podcast making English language teaching and learning more transparent. My name is Benjamin Stewart at benjaminlstewart.com. Before we get into today's topic, if you have any thoughts, insights, or would like to share any of your experiences, feel free to reach out to me at my Twitter handle at BNLEEZ. Today I want to provide a recap for week one. I plan to do these recaps, these weekly recaps, for us to kind of summarize some of the key points that we've been talking about during our tutoring sessions. I like to gather some thoughts as I have a lot of the same types of conversations week to week with each of you. And so I want to provide just a basic overview and some additional links that you can follow in the event that you're needing some additional information or support as you're working through your research project process. So today's video I have here, I'll share a link to the show notes that I'm sharing here on my screen. The first thing we talked about in week one was basically going over the platforms that we're going to be working with. And primarily, we're going to have two platforms that we're going to be in: Microsoft Teams and Capacities. So Microsoft Teams, we will be sharing some files. And if you go into Microsoft Teams under Files, under the General tab, you'll have access to the class materials, which you'll have access to the syllabus. And you'll have access to some other key documents that you might find useful. The plagiarism policy for our department. We have, I'm sharing the rubrics with you, and also, of course, the syllabus. So you might want to take a look at these. Also, I have a folder called Formats where you can find different formats in the event that you need permission. You need some sort of permission letter. I have some formats here. If anyone needs a permission letter that is unique or something that I don't already have a copy of, feel free to send that to me, and I'll get it back to you as soon as possible. Some of you might also need an informed consent form as you are getting closer to choosing the participants for your study. You'll probably need to have them sign an informed consent form. Probably in week one, that's not going to be necessary, but do know that this form is in this Formats folder if you need it a little bit later. We have a folder called Thesis Papers, so this is where all of our papers will be. This is where we'll work throughout the semester. I highly recommend that you make all of your additions, your changes, modifications in this one shared document so that we have a record of all the revisions and also any comments that you leave me or any feedback that I provide you. You can resolve those comments as you go along so that you can also have a history of all of those comments if we need to revert back to them for any reason. We have a research matrix, and this is going to be one of our early assignments getting started. I won't open this up here at this point, but it's got general information that you'll add as it relates to your research questions, your topic, and the problem that you're investigating, and so on. And also we have the tutorship schedule. Our tutoring schedule is going to remain fixed throughout the semester. So if you haven't already added your name, this is what we need to be doing at from the first week so that we can begin the second week with a fixed schedule that we can stick to throughout the semester. The other platform we'll be using is Capacities, and this is basically the platform that you're looking at here. All of the course content, pretty much all of the course content, will reside in this page. I have a link here that will take you to the main page for the course, and you'll see that it has general information for the course. And as you scroll down, you'll see here under units, it's divided into 3 units. Unit 1 will spend the first 5 weeks of the semester in Unit 1. We'll spend about 5 to 6 weeks in Unit 2, and probably another 5 or 6 weeks or so for Unit 3. If you go into each unit, you'll find additional information that relates to the weeks, each individual week. I'll continue to share information here as well. So you're encouraged to take a look at different links and information that I'll share here in this space so that you can have access to additional content as it relates to your process, as it relates to where you are in your research endeavor. So for week 1, I'm sharing here some links related to developing a literature review, narrowing down your topic, and organizational patterns. Most of you are going to follow or fall under 2 different categories. Some of you are going to be taking your academic writing project that you created during 7th semester, your literature review, and you're going to be taking another look at it as it relates to your research questions and the practicalities of finding participants and actually considering, in some cases, beginning to speak with potential participants, maybe teachers, maybe coordinators, administrators, to begin learning a little bit more about their context to see how they might fit within your purpose, within your research questions. So one of the things that I've been speaking to you about, for those of you who have already developed a literature review and you're trying to match or link your theory, your theoretical framework to the practicalities of your own study, is begin reaching out to potential participants. So most of you are going to be doing either a survey or an interview. The survey is going to be for those, in those cases where maybe you have a lot of teachers that you're not going to have enough time to do an interview, and maybe there's just too many of the teachers. Perhaps maybe there are problems with getting schedules together for you to meet with each of the teachers. So maybe a survey is going to make the most sense. So if you are able to have time to do interviews, then I would suggest trying to do an interview over a survey. But if time is an issue, then certainly surveys can be a good option. You might also have, instead of interviews with individual teachers or participants, you might have focus groups. So you might have groups of participants, maybe teachers or administrators, so that you can save time by maybe not talking with each one by one, but you can get them together as a group and talk to them and ask some general questions. Regardless, whether you're using a survey, whether you're going to do an interview or a focus group, the intention is to provide as much of an unstructured interview in that you're just trying to get general information about their teaching practice, their context. You might need to get information about how many groups they're teaching, what are the ages, what are the levels of English. Any additional information, if they are general English classes, content classes, you want to get a feel for their situation and their context so that you can see whether or not they might be good participants as it relates to your purpose, as it relates to your research questions. Now, you might ask some general questions, or you're certainly going to be listening for certain comments, certain just information about their classes that relates to your research questions. But the idea is not to do a deep dive into your research questions at this point. It's more of an exploratory way of just getting to know the teacher, trying to establish potentially that first, just establish maybe a relationship with that potential teacher so that you can see whether or not, again, they're going to be good candidates for your study. Remember, if you do any interviews or focus groups, to do recordings Everything should be very systematic, so you'll want to have some kind of guide to help you make sure that you get the information that you need. So I would suggest doing some kind of interview guide or focus group guide to prepare you. Maybe it's an outline, just a general notes page that has some of the key points that you want to get from the interview or from the focus group. Of course, the survey should be organized. Make sure that that there are no spelling mistakes, that everything is presented in a way that is professional. So you'll have some kind of heading probably, and you'll have some kind of introduction and kind of introducing yourself generally. You might even have logos to make it look more professional. But again, the idea at this beginning stages is just to get general information. So don't feel like you need to get a lot of information, but it should be enough for you to later decide whether to choose these teachers or these administrators, perhaps, whether or not to choose them for your study. This first week, it's not going to be necessary to make that decision. Right now, again, is just to get the information, and then we can discuss it in further detail in week 2. Did some additional links, situational questions, finding participants. I'm not going to go over that all at this point in the video, but do take a look at that. And once you've received or gathered this additional information from these potential participants, the idea is to begin thinking about how relevant your literature review, as it is right now, how relevant it's going to be as it relates to your research questions. So think of the potential participants, the information that you got. Look at your research questions, see if any modifications or changes are going to be necessary. Take a look at the sections of your literature review, that there's no extraneous information. There's no information that's not going to pertain directly to the purpose of your study, with the idea that the potential participants that you're considering are going to be likely able to provide you this information. Here in the show notes, I've included some additional links about narrowing down your topic, organizing an argument. So do take a look at that. I have another page here on organizational patterns. I've got some links here that relate to some of the assignments. Going back to Microsoft Teams, as you are aware, you can assign, or you can go into your assignments and see what's due for this particular week. Everything is by unit, so you can find those assignments in Microsoft Teams. Now, for those of you who are starting a new subject, a new topic for your literature review, some of the things are going to be very similar, but at this point, I don't think it's necessary to begin trying to reach out to potential participants. I would focus more on the problem statement that you're working on, the thesis statement, and skeleton outline. Now, because you are planning a 2,500 word literature review, the skeleton outline, I would suggest that you match the key points that are going to be listed at the end of your thesis statement, that each of those key points will summarize or address each of the key sections, the main sections that will divide up your literature review. These are things we'll talk about during week 1 as you get started. And a lot of the assignments that are included in week 1 and week 2 are specifically designed for those of you who are starting primarily a new topic. Those of you who have already developed a literature review, a lot of times it's going to be just a matter of using the same problem statement and thesis statement and the skeleton outline that you used in academic writing. But again, make sure that as you're getting more information from your participants, and as you start looking again at your literature review and seeing if any changes need to be made, that it's likely that some changes will need to be made to the thesis statement and the skeleton outline as you move throughout your process. I have additional links here, finding participants. I have another link here for situational questions that you might find useful as well. And some additional links for narrowing down your topic, organizing your argument, and so on. So do take a look at these links. And make sure you're reaching out if you do have any questions about the assignments that we're going to be completing for week 1 and week 2. The assignments that I assigned for week 1, I'll probably extend those to week 2 as well. Again, changes are going to be anticipated here as you not only are finding your participants, but also just progressing as you are drafting and finalizing your literature review. Again, it's going to be common to have to go back and maybe reconsider making some modifications to your thesis statement. So I think we'll stop there here for today. This has been just a brief recap for week 1 for those of you who are taking Thesis Seminar. Make sure, again, you're reaching out. Make sure, if you haven't already, that you've signed up for your tutoring session. The idea is that we are going to try to respect that schedule throughout the semester, so you can find kind of your flow, your routine, so that you can get into a kind of a flow state, so to speak, in how you're working week to week and making progress on your thesis paper. So we'll stop there. This has been ELT Cast, an educational podcast making English language teaching and learning more transparent. Thanks for listening.